One of the questions that I get asked the most on a daily basis is which camera would I recommend? Now the answer to this changes completely depending on who I'm speaking to. However, there's a certain few cameras that are recommended to the majority of people. In this video, I'm going to go over one of those cameras, which is the Sony A7 Mark III. Now the A7 Mark III is one of those cameras that's versatile for both video and photo. And for the budget it's in, it's a really strong camera. A big positive around this camera is the price range. You can usually pick these up second hand now between £600 and £900. And for that price range, it's really good value for money. As I say, the camera is really good for video and photo. However, I'd say it's more strong on the video side. I personally used it for photos in the past at professional sports events and got really good results. Now the first thing I'm looking at when I'm researching a camera would be the megapixels. And the A7 III is really strong in that department with 24, which means that if you're taking a photo on a wide lens, you need to crop it in and be able to get a really good crop on that without losing too much detail. Of course, that will heavily depend on the lens as well. Having more than 20 megapixels will really help with this, no matter what lens you're using. On the photo side of things, it is able to take 10 frames per second in the high plus shutter mode, which again is really beneficial. It's not amazing, and a lot of the modern day mirrorless cameras will have a lot more than that. You're looking more like 20 to 30 at minimum. However, like I say, for the price range that we're looking at the minute, 10 is going to be absolutely fine. It's not amazing, but it's not bad at all. And it's not going to mean that you're going to miss any vital moments. And of course, that's me speaking in sports because that's what I specialise in. However, if you're doing something like nature or wildlife, 10 is going to be way more than you need anyway. In low light settings, from my experience, the camera copes okay. If you're shooting primarily in low light, I definitely recommend spending a bit more money to upgrade to the A7R III. However, from my experience, you can usually clear up any grain in your photos in post-production up to around 8000 ISO. Once you get above that, it can get a bit tricky, however it's still doable. And once you kind of go past that 12,000 ISO, that's when you really start needing to upgrade on the camera. Now, on the video side of things, the A7 III is a really strong contender for the price range, and now you're not going to get the results like you would with an FX3, for example. However, it will really hold its own in the video department, and if you're shooting professional grade videography, this is definitely going to keep up. Now, of course, you're going to need to pair it with a strong lens. The camera's not going to carry it all by itself. However, paired with a strong lens, this camera really will produce some high quality videos. It does shoot in log if you go into the menu and go through to the picture profile. So there's a few different settings. However, the one that I personally used when using the camera was picture profile 7, which I believe is S-Log2 off the top of my head. Now, like I say, the A7 III isn't going to be revolutionary and you will in the longer term have to upgrade it. However, if you're looking for a camera for a shorter term basis on a lower budget, I'd 100% recommend it, and it can definitely hold its own with the other competitors in the market around this price range and potentially a bit higher.